Sorry about that. I made
That's okay.
Wayne host, so when he went out, it shut down everything.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, now I'm going to go and try and find these two participants so that they understand that we're here.
Any progress, Wayne, on opening up at the Methodist Church or moving to the Lutheran Church?
Not as of yet.
Okay.
Okay, is it okay if I let these, I have two folks waiting to come in.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
You can practice this perfect breathing for a few minutes or a few hours. There's no such thing as having too much peak efficiency. Olson told me he's working.
You can see everything okay, Bill? You sounds okay?
My sound is okay. Yes. I
Good.
had a little trouble getting in, but I'm here.
Yeah, I was working with Wayne and Judy, the presenters, and I wasn't letting everybody in until I let everybody in together, and then everybody left.
Well, I got in and it said, wait for your host. And then all of a sudden it said, I don't know, call ended, or meeting ended or something like that. And then I had to go sign in again. And I tried just clicking on that link. I thought it was a link, but it wasn't. And it gave me the numbers. And then I actually went to Zoom, and then I hit join a meeting in Zoom and poked in those numbers, and it brought it up for me.
Good.
But I thought it would, when I hit it, it would take me.
Well, we
into it.
had a little mishap too, so maybe it was during our mishap.
Maybe so. Okay.
Yeah. Well, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
We have a couple. We're still waiting. We have Jill. She is on the call, but she is not on video. But I think she has her microphone turned off, but she is
Yeah.
there. So,
Mhm.
Good reception.
And I see Kim Kubich is
and we
on.
have Kim Cubs showed up. So I think there may be one other person, but I did not know the other person. So we'll see if he comes. We'll give him another minute or so, and then we'll get started if that's okay.
Mhm.
And Judy Banyai is the correct pronunciation of your last
Yep.
name? Okay.
Yep.
Good. Cool. This is our third in our series of 5 talks. And so far, they have been very well received. So I think we'll probably do these several times a year.
Mhm.
And ultimately, I'm going to begin posting the recordings on our website, so folks can go back and watch them when they want to.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately I missed Elaine's last week. I have heard her presentation in the past, but it's always, you hear it with different ears each time.
That's
you hear
right. And she's got a couple of different ones. This one I had never heard before in its entirety, but I am just about ready to send the link out so folks can share it with other people or watch it
Good.
again, and also
Great.
have the documents that she presented. So,
Good, thank you.
yeah. All right, so it looks like we're at 12:03 and we only have an hour together. So I'd like to be prompt and get started if possible.
Mhm.
So welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Neighbors Who Cares Winter Speaker Series. And this talk is about Memory Cafe. What is it, and is it right for us? And I want to thank Judy Banyai and Wayne Mangold, who is joining us today. And I'll tell you a little bit about them in a moment. But I just want to mention to everyone that Neighbors Who Care is proud to be offering this speaker series. Would like to do more with the community, but outside of the work we do for the community at large, our real treasure is what we're able to provide to our clients. We offer folks who are homebound the opportunity to have rides to their medical appointments. We help them get to physical therapy when they need to, dialysis. And actually, when I say we, it is not me or my staff, it is the treasure that we have in our volunteers who reach out and accept these events with our clients to help them remain independent in their homes. We also have a dinner program for those who qualify for it. So those folks who are homebound and are unable to always be able to prepare healthy meals, they can help. We can help them get those through our program and our volunteer delivery service. And you can imagine COVID has impacted what we do somewhat. We've reduced some of our services so that we can make sure that everyone has ample volunteers to help with them. But we're looking forward to restoring everything that we provide the community, including our friendly visits and respite care. And we see that happening sometime, we would hope, before the end of 2021. And we have a couple board members from Neighbors Who Care on this call or this Zoom presentation. Bill Wilhelm is one of our board, and he's our treasurer. And Kim Kupsch has recently joined our board as well. And she's also a presenter. She'll be presenting on the last week of our 5-week series on decluttering and freeing yourself from stuff. Kim is the owner of Joyful Downsizing, and we're thrilled that she'll be able to present that information as well. So without further ado, I'd like to again thank you for attending, and I'd like to introduce Wayne Mangold, who is founder of Creative Engagement Partners, which is the host of Memory Cafe and in better times, the music program as well. And we're grateful for Wayne to bring this program. And I'm fortunate to say that I serve on the board for Creative Engagement Partners. It's a proud moment for me. And Judy Banyai, who she and her husband are participants of Memory Cafe. So today we're going to learn a little bit about what brought Wayne to where we are today with Memory Cafe. And then we'll hear firsthand from Judy as her and her husband participate. So Wayne, take it away, and I'm gonna give you that host ability again so you can share your presentation. Let me know if I can be of any support for you.
Okay. I'm not getting the.
Did you click the share screen button at the bottom?
I did.
Let me make sure that you're actually, oh, there you go.
There,
There.
I've got it.
Okay.
I see it, Wayne. Thank you.
Okay. So I actually have prepared 3 different segments for this presentation. One, I want to talk about my journey as a caregiver for my deceased wife who had Alzheimer's. And then I'd like to move into the formation of Creative Engagement Partners and how it was created and why it was created. And then I want to go into the Memory Cafe, which is one of the programs that is being offered by Creative Engagement Partners. And I want to make sure I thank Cheryl for inviting me to be a participant on this series. And also want to thank Judy for joining me. About in 2010, I noticed some changes in my deceased wife's behavior. One was some forgetfulness and a little bit of anger. And then I noticed that when she was driving, her depth perception had changed significantly, where she would be getting behind a car, but so much distance between she and the car ahead of her. And then a lot of insecurity issues. I used to be playing golf, I used to be playing tennis, a lot of it, but then it got to the point where she really didn't want me to go um, out and be without her. So I was really reluctant to admit that I had a problem. And I probably went for many months, maybe even as long as a couple years. I really didn't want to admit there was a problem, maybe. Maybe there was a possibility that I would become isolated. But regardless, I take blame for that. And so I went to my primary doctor, and he was a very little help. He basically said, okay, let me give her a little test. And so he did the normal, I'll give you 4 different items: penny, bear, quarter, and a tractor. And then talked to her. Then later on, she came back. She was able to get 2 out of the 3. He said, well, I don't think there's really a problem, but we'll just keep an eye on it. Took her home. A couple more months went by. I knew that things were getting worse. So I found a neurologist out in Mesa. And so went out there, and the same thing. They reviewed her, said, I don't see a problem, and didn't even really want to take her as a patient. So came home again, and a couple more months, maybe three months passed. So then I went to one of the major providers for Alzheimer's assistance here in the Valley. And I went there, and that neurologist said, yes, I think we have a problem. But in order to really make a determination, we should probably give her one of these neuropsych tests. And that's a test that about a 3-hour test. And then when she completed that, the doctor said, absolutely, we have a problem. And so went with them for probably about a year. But every time we went back to them, it was like he didn't know who we were or what her status was. So then I went to another organization called Banner Alzheimer's Institute. And there I really found that I could get care for her and care for me in the form of support. Some of the issues that I had during my care for her got into several minor car accidents, such as 3 of them were running into the side of the garage because she didn't have the depth perception anymore. And then she hit a curb, took out the front end of the car. And then I talked with an attorney, and the attorney said, Wayne, you really put yourself out there. If she gets into an accident, injures somebody, you knowing that she has Alzheimer's, you're going to lose everything. So finally, when she got lost driving the car, then we had to take away the car. And that was devastating to her because that eliminated the independence, and more dependent on me. But during my caring for her, the mind had changed. The physical individual was the same, but inside, much different. I was accused of drug abuse. I mean, she'd riding in a car, and she was saying, "I saw you pop a pill in your mouth. What pill did you take?" Or I'd be sitting watching TV. I saw what you did. Your face is turning red. I know you're taking drugs. Or the infidelity, which is quite normal with the Alzheimer's patient. But then it was again stealing. I was stealing her money. I was stealing her clothing. I was stealing her jewelry. We'd have people come in and replace carpet, and they were stealing our carpet even. So during that time, I was traveling 300 to 400 miles every week to find services and to get education. So I was traveling to Banner Alzheimer's Institute at least once a week. I went out as far as Sun City Grand and Sun City for education, downtown Phoenix for education. And then I took her to a day center in Mesa because I wanted some place that I could take her for eight hours and drop her off, and they'd have a nurse there. And then just getting support for myself, driving back and forth to Phoenix, getting support for me. And so then I decided this is really not going to work for most of the Sun Lakers. They're not going to be willing to drive as much as I did. And most of them would. I'm not saying all of them would, but most of them would not. And so then I went to the Alzheimer's Association, Neighbors Who Care, The Perfect Place, Oakwood Creative Care, and I said, would you be interested in joining a coalition that we could bring services to Sun Lakes rather than having to drive out? And they all said emphatically, yes, I would like to help. And at that time, we were known as Sun Lakes Creative Engagement Partners, and we were just an organization, but not maybe even an organization, but just a group of people getting together every month talking about what services that we could provide. But I'm very happy to know that we've grown into a 501c3 nonprofit now. And I have some prestigious board members with Creative Engagement Partners. And they're from Neighbors Who Care, Oakwood Creative Care, The Perfect Place, Healthy Mind Today, Hospice of the Valley, Visiting Angels, and Banner Alzheimer's Institute. And of course me, but I'm not that prestigious. And then, so we decided, what is going to be our mission for this organization? And so we worked on it. We worked on that for a couple of weeks, and we finally came up with our mission as being we wanted to open up avenues of communications and communities for people with Parkinson's and memory impairment. Now, when I say and communities, because many times the people are isolated and become isolated. Friends don't know how to deal with the individual. In my case, my friends didn't really not know how to deal with my deceased wife, and so we saw friends abandoning us at a kind of an alarming rate. So our purpose was to have a coalition of leaders to create these programs, and then we could eliminate the feelings of isolation and loneliness. And many times, as I've experienced with my support group, we developed really a family of friends, and we did things together. We had parties together. We went to concerts together, and it became what I call my new normal at that time. So the first thing that we did, we developed a music therapy program. And I was attending the music therapy that was at Tempe Library for probably about 2 to 3 years. And I said, well, why am I traveling there? Why don't I bring it here to Sun Lakes? So I initiated a program so that we could bring the music therapy here to Sun Lakes. And it was designed by ASU, the ASU School of Music. And it's currently being promoted now by Banner Alzheimer's Institute and Muhammad Ali Parkinson's Center. And it really provides an opportunity for a respite and intimacy between family and friends, and a stimulating music-centered environment. And the sessions is especially helpful with people who are experiencing cognitive and maybe some physical issues. And music therapy has proven to promote the wellness, to manage the stress, to have people express their feelings. We had so many people in our programs that sometimes with the music, they would just get up and dance. We improved their communications, and it promoted a physical rehabilitation, because in our music program, we also have movement. We had arm movement, we had hand movement. We were changing things on 1, 2, 3. You have to lift a hand. 1, 2, 3. You have to lift your foot. And I recall one instance where it was quite thought-provoking. We had an individual. We had our music therapist is a Korean. She was trained at ASU. She has a degree in music, has a master's degree in music therapy, and has a master's degree in voice from ASU. And she was Korean, and so we asked her to sing a song for us in Korean, and she did. And one of our participants was Korean. She hadn't been speaking for several days. All of a sudden, something resonated with her brain that it brought back memories of her childhood in Korea. And she opened up and she sang the most beautiful song. And there was not really a dry eye in the place. We had one lady who would, at certain instances, she would just get up and dance. And they look forward to coming to that. But unfortunately, we had to close it down because of COVID, and we hope that we can bring it back soon. And then we had another program called Memory Cafe. And Memory Cafe is a national movement with over 900 cafes in the US. Arizona has 6, and we're one of those 6. And it offers a socialization between the caregiver, the care recipient. Memory Cafe is a kind of a welcoming place for individuals with mild dementia and any other brain impairment or disorder. And it's not a respite care. While a Memory Cafe is beneficial for those living with dementia, it's also beneficial for their caregivers as well. It's not a place to just drop them off. It's a place that you can enjoy activities with your loved ones, and you can get a break from your normal routine that you're sharing every day. It's a safe place, comfortable, where the caregivers and their care recipients, they can socialize with others traveling this similar journey. It provides music or mutual support and exchange information. And this is valuable for nothing else than to obtain information about additional resources. Remember I said I traveled 400 to 500 miles or 300 to 400 miles every week? Now we brought that back to Sun Lakes. The people can come there and they can enjoy these activities that I was traveling many miles to get. The activities are varied, but they tend to focus on topics that are apt to cause ones to reminisce about their past. And emphasis is really placed on activities where humor can be a central part of the enjoyment. With our Memory Cafe that we had, we would start it at like 9:30. We would have a half hour of socialization with coffee and pastries. And then we would split everybody apart. We'd take the caregivers into a support group, and then we would take the care recipients into kind of a cognitive engagement program. And unfortunately, we had to close that down because of COVID. And currently, we still are operating that through a virtual cafe. Every Monday at 10 a.m., we have a session for the caregivers. And then every Monday at 1 p.m., we have a session for the care recipients. Now, the care recipients, they have all different types of activities. Chair exercises, we have art, we've got Tales and Travel, which is a new program. We've got a life story. We have reading. We have just all types of engagement to get people active and engaged and want to come. Talking about the Tales and Travel, it was a program that was developed in Chicago by a retired academic librarian, Mary Beth Ryder, who developed it for her husband who had Alzheimer's. So in her experience, she wanted to keep her husband active. So she created this program, and it's an innovative book and reading library program that it's 1 hour. It takes participants on a journey. Could be in the US, it could be international, but she uses all types of material, such as books, music, maybe tickets from the travel, maybe a bus ticket, maybe a park entrance ticket, but anything to try to make that session real. And a recent study was done by Dr. Susan Westner of Justin University. And the results of that was that the Tales and Cities, the Tales and Travel, was really a program that was beneficial to those who had Alzheimer's. And I have to say that I believe that our cafe is probably one of the better ones. I'm going to say one of the better ones in the nation, because all of our presenters are trained to work with the families with dementia. Some of the programs are directed to specific holidays and events. Almost all involve humor and all seek active participation. And they're all designed to interact with the recipient and the presenter. One such program had people reading from a book, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. But to my relief, it was the most beautiful thing that I've experienced, because the people not only could read the paragraphs, but they wanted to read the paragraphs. They were volunteering, they're raising their hand. I'll read the next one. We have another program that is designed for like chair exercises. We have another one that was designed to create a booklet of memories for the caregiver, and the care recipient worked together on that. In another instance, we had a harpist come and present. In another instance, we had an organization come and do art. In another episode, we had an organization bring these animals. They looked like real, and they could hold them, and they had dogs and cats and babies. But I think we're quite innovative in the programs that we have developed and the programs that we are now executing. Okay, now on the support groups. Let me see if I didn't. No, okay, I'm still on schedule. The support group is really ran by very professional people. They're all college educated, board certified. All the leaders are working in the healthcare industry. The participants, they receive education material from our card flyer, our rack, in addition to getting information from each other and support group. Remember, I was telling you I was traveling all these distances to get information. information now is brought to the Sun Lakes community. No longer necessary to travel long distances to get the information and education to help you along with this particular journey. During the support group, the participants openly discuss the encounters that they've had occurring during the week. They share it with their fellow participants. They get support from them. They may get some guidance from them and the leader. And many times the participants are sharing their personal contact information, so they can talk to each other even throughout the week about specific instances that we have. We have all types of information on how to handle particular problems. We have all kinds of information on where you have to go to get to that next step. If you ever have to place a person, then we give you several such suggestions on where and you can go visit them. But our purpose is to try to keep people at home as long as we can. And many times our participants really are developing into a family, and they are taking lunches together. They may have coffees together. But it's, again, the purpose is to eliminate that feeling of the isolation, which so often occurs to people with Alzheimer's or dementia. And recently we hosted a picnic for the caregivers, because they were desiring to see each other, and they're still desiring to see each other. And I have to mention that when we started this Memory Cafe, we were running it twice a week, and our participants, our registrars, said, no, this is something that we enjoy. We'd like to do it every week. So we went and made that happen. Now, memory cafes, from a national point of view, I just read a report that they came with these 4 observations: that it increased their social interactions, increased cognitive interactions, and it created increased emotional engagement, and it improved the relationships with their loved ones. We had one of our board members develop a survey, and our survey result, although small, came up with they thought it was these resources were helpful to help them care for their loved ones, allowed them maybe to keep their loved ones at home longer, but basically it increased the quality of life for the caregiver and the care recipient. And I'm so pleased that I have the board that I have, the leaders that I have, and not me. Let me rephrase that. I'm so pleased that I have everybody a part of this coalition working together to bring these services to Sun Lakes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wayne. That's the first time, even though we've been working together a few years now, that I've heard your entire story. So thank you for sharing it. We have Judy here, Judy and her husband are participants of Memory Cafe. And I'm going to interview Judy so we can hear some of your answers. And then Judy, anything you want to expound on, just have at it.
Well, first of all, gratitude for all the work that Wayne has done to provide these opportunities. And we certainly are beneficiaries of your hard work, Wayne, and appreciate it. So go ahead and
okay. So Judy,
we'll talk.
How long have you been participating in Memory Cafe?
We've been participating since their inception. And as Wayne said, at first, we met once a month and then requested that we meet on a weekly basis. I had been in another support group, but most of the participants were had progressed in their illness far beyond where my husband was. He was still early in the process and early in the disease. And while I learned a great deal from them, he needed the socialization that came from Memory Cafe. People who were relatively early in the process. And he went primarily because I wanted to go. So he was being nice to go to this. And of course, what he has realized is how many wonderful friends he's made. Wayne spoke early about once there's an awareness of this illness, friends tend to drop away, and the need for socialization does not go away, either for the caregiver or the care recipient. So it was primarily that need for the socialization that interested us in the first place.
When you first visited, like, I imagine there's some trepidation coming for the first time. How did you feel when you walked into the Memory Cafe the first time?
It's a very, because we were meeting in person, it was a very warm and welcoming experience because it was socialization with all of us together for about half an hour. And then we would separate into our groups. I think the hardest is making the decision to go, accepting the fact that there is a challenge, and it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. It's a challenge that can be managed with support. And it's very welcoming. Both the people who participate in it and those who are facilitating the program are very good at welcoming people.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Did your husband always want to participate? Did he, after you said he went because you wanted to go, was it hard for you to get him moving to go in the future after those first few encounters?
No, because he met so many people. At that time, how many did we have, Wayne? We had maybe 15, maybe about 15 participating. And so as they participated and got to know each other, it was their special club. And I always approached it that it was his club.
That's a nice way to.
Yeah. And because we have such great facilitators for the program, it's not only, it's learning verbiage for how to deal with all the situations that we encounter. And the availability of the resources that we have in Sun Lakes is absolutely amazing. One of our members has since had to move to Colorado to be close to his children for help with his wife. And the benefit of Zoom is he still participates with us, and there is nothing in their area that equals what he has access to here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very beneficial.
Have you run into any like challenges that you had to kind of adjust how you approach things, being a part of it, being a part with maybe other folks who are newer to Memory Cafe and were struggling a little bit with getting their loved one with them? Have you had any of those kind of issues arise during your participation?
Yes. And we have each other's phone numbers. And when we met in person, it was not unusual to call one or the other, because everybody's experience is so different. This is not a disease that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 1, 10, to 0. You're never sure exactly where you are in the process, and the resources for learning how to handle those things. Just how do you stop your loved one from driving? Jim had the Alzheimer's test with the dye. It's not a definitive Alzheimer's diagnosis, but it's the plaques and tangles that are indicative of it. And again, if you have an accident, you could lose everything, just like Wayne said. So Jim was not real happy about not driving. Fortunately, we stopped before we had the accidents that Wayne has experienced. My accidents happened with the golf cart instead, and had to have it refiberglassed and repainted, but that was a small item. The support from each other is invaluable.
Whenever you have someone who is in that position or is afraid, maybe they're worried about how they're going to feel or be embarrassed or whatever. So when you offer that support, has it proved to help folks to be able to come back if they were a little uncomfortable after one episode or one visit?
It's very difficult with the Zoom meetings. Because we can't really see the reaction of the people when we're speaking so much. And, it's a daunting journey that we're on. And it for people who are just beginning that journey, it's frightening. And it's frightening for women, but we are used to caregiving. I think it's very difficult for men. They learn to cook, they learn to clean, they learn physical care of the loved one. I think for many men, it's a much more challenging journey. So
what would you say? I hearken to my own experience with my mom, who cared for my stepdad with dementia. And my mom's a smart person, very social, gregarious. And we saw her shrinking during this period. And I tried to find resources for her. She lives in Pennsylvania, and there just weren't any. But even if we had, I would say that I probably wouldn't have been able to convince her to take advantage of them. So knowing there are 10,000 homes of seniors in Sun Lakes, I have to believe there's more than the 8 to 15 that have visited or come to our Memory Cafe. What would you say to someone in your shoes, maybe a few years ago, to encourage the caregiver to do what they can to at least give it a try, especially now when it doesn't even mean they have to take their loved one anywhere. They could do this and give it a try on Zoom. What would you say to them?
Sometimes it's denial of the care receiver that they have a problem. Okay, so that's one issue, as well as the caregiver denying that there's a problem. And people say, well, I'm getting old, and that's normal. And it is normal to an extent, but a lot of people are just in denial that the situation is there. And I'm sure Wayne will agree that because we've been on this journey for a while, we recognize it. We see people who would benefit by the opportunities that are here, but they are still in denial that there is any challenge. And I have to say, Jim resisted going to Perfect Place, which is that'll be Rose's contribution
Yeah, she's
next
going to
week.
speak next week.
Yes. And Jim didn't want to go to that because he wasn't as bad as people there. But the Zoom, when they started Zoom and we were confined to our home and they did bingo and he wasn't going to do bingo. But then the camaraderie that developed from that was really helpful. And hopefully we can meet in person again soon.
That's
for Memory
that's our
Cafe. The enrichment programs are wonderful, and it's the cognitive enrichment. It's keeping activities going. Even New Adventures in Learning. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's the school program from Mesa Community College or Chandler Gilbert Community College. And those classes are beneficial as well. But when you're contributing with cognitive issues and not, again, it's the social stigma of not appearing normal.
Of course. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Judy, about your experience that maybe when someone watches this, they may be encouraged from what you have to say?
The facilitators for our caregiver portion of the program are trained, wonderful trained people. Some have personal experience with dementia. Some have a career experience with dementia currently. They can manage our Zoom meetings and so forth, so everyone has a chance to share, and everyone contributes to each other. Someone comes to the meeting with a particular challenge, and through experience of the group members or the experience of the facilitator, you walk away with ideas and verbiage of how to handle these situations.
So there's actionable help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Immeasurable help, whether it's legal issues. We spend a lot of time on the legal aspects and getting things in order, like Elaine was speaking of last week. What do you do? You know, do you have plans for your loved one if something happens to you? And to see the progression of the illness as time goes on. Nothing stays the same, and maybe you don't have this challenge this month, but next month it's your big challenge.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, that's
Very grateful.
remarkable. It's remarkable to hear a firsthand experience, Judy. It really is.
Well, the group has been wonderful. And again, I'm grateful to Wayne for making that possible to even do that. So
we're happy to partner together. We know that there are volunteers in our core of volunteers, as well as clients who are likely living some form of your experience. And we hope to bring this information so that they are aware and that they can not be as afraid to step into it, because so much can be benefited from.
Absolutely. I have a question. You referred to something called Healthy Mind Today, and I'm not familiar with that.
That's one's company.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.
Wayne, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, other than, this disease, there's no common route that you take.
Mhm.
He said, you can go from one time at a moment and everything appears fine. You can have people
Yes,
coming to your house and say, well, I don't see a problem. But
right.
boy, once they leave, then you're dealing with that. And
Mhm.
nothing is normal.
Right.
So many times, you know, people can even grow apart during this disease because it becomes very difficult to work with some of the dementia patients who become violent. Uh, Fortunately, my wife never came to that point, but her mother did, who had Alzheimer's, and she became violent. She hit people, and finally, they just had to put her into a facility. I made a commitment to her when we found out that she had Alzheimer's, that I would never institutionalize her, that I was going to take care of her. And fortunately, I was able to take care of her before she passed.
Mhm.
But that's not true for all people. Not all
Right.
people would be willing to make that commitment. I
Yeah.
gave up. I gave up everything. I used to be an avid tennis player. I gave that up. And I'm not saying this to make any
Mhm.
grandiose observation about me, but it's just my commitment that I wanted to make to her, to make sure that she was taken care of, even though I went through so many abusive times.
Mhm.
But it's very difficult for the caregiver. It can affect the health of the caregiver, and that's one of the signs that I know that I asked. If there was a time to be placed, what would that time be? And they said, well, whenever you're not safe or she's not safe,
Mhm.
then that's the time you have to make a
Mhm.
decision.
Right.
But it's one of the more difficult diseases. I know I went to my doctor one time. I said, God, I kind of wish she had cancer rather than dementia because at least I could talk to her. And he said, Wayne, you wouldn't want her to have cancer. She'd be in so much pain. So
Mhm.
even though she doesn't know who you are, it's better that she has Alzheimer's rather than cancer.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate that she didn't have to live in a facility and be bedridden for years. It's one of the toughest journeys, and
Mhm.
I've had people that I talked to here in Sun Lakes that they say, "Would you come and talk to this individual?" I'll say yes, but then the individual will say, I don't want anybody to talk to. I don't want anybody to
Yeah.
know that she
Yeah.
has Alzheimer's. I've had two
Oh,
instances of
Yes.
that, and
Yeah.
not willing to come. We had one gentleman that he would come, but he got so irritated that his wife just said, "No, we can't continue to
oh boy.
bring."
I
But
remember you saying that.
I think there are so many in the Sun Lakes and the surrounding area that could benefit from this, but they're just not coming. We at one time, I think our largest group that we had in our memory cafe, we had close to 38 people there. So we had 18 participants and 18
Mhm.
caregivers. But
Mhm.
we want to keep it small because if it gets too large, then the people don't have the opportunity to interact. We want some
Mhm.
intimacy involved with our programs. We really want to have them to develop good relationships. As Judy said, sometimes they call each other. I did the same thing in my support group.
Mhm.
It actually became my new normal family.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. The hardest part is the friendships that you lose
Yes.
from people who cannot handle what's
Right.
going on. There's a book on ambiguous loss,
I
And
took
that's,
that class.
and that's where we are. You just,
Right.
your person is still with you, but part of them is not with you. And so you're grieving that part of them that is no longer with you, but then they are here. And then the next day, they're totally here.
Right.
It's a very unique, interesting roller coaster. So,
Well,
does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Wayne, what kind of a background did you have? You were very, very good with your presentation and your challenges, and bringing all of this to Sun Lakes is just amazing. And I just wondered what you did in your real life to train you for this.
I had nothing to train me for this. In my real life, I was a marketing executive for a high-tech firm. So I was involved in electronic publishing. And so I worked in that field for many years. And then I started my own company, founded in 1990. And then we started to build internet sites for real estate companies, and we specialized in real estate companies. And I ran that for 7 years before finally sold it. So I lived in California at the time, and then retired here to Arizona. So I've been here since 1999 when I bought my house here.
cool.
So,
Thanks, Bill.
so
Any other questions from any
yeah,
of those?
nothing prepared me for this other than I just wanted to immerse myself into getting as much knowledge as I could about it, and even the medications that were available. And
Mhm.
I found a lot of that support, when I was attending the support groups at Banner. And I'm sure that we have the same, the same information here. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
so,
How long ago was it that you were going through all of this?
my journey started in 2010, and then my wife passed away in 2017. And so for 7 years, we knew about it. For 5 years, I really went through the journey with her.
Mhm. Okay.
Cheryl, can you hear me?
Kim?
Yes,
I sure can. Mhm.
thank you. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your journey. I want more people to find you. As a
Yes.
resident of Sun Lakes for 12 and a half years, honestly, if I would not have seen the church billboard that announced the Memory Cafe being there, and of course, Cheryl from my previous world, I wouldn't even know about you. And I'm just so thankful that I listened in today, because my wheels are ticking, turning. How can we get more people to find you?
Yes.
One of the things I have found during COVID is, where do people kind of hang out? Believe it or not, I see so much activity on nextdoor.com. So my thought is, can we share different Zoom events, or share what you're doing to get your word out there, because everybody knows somebody that's going through a similar journey, and if we can just get that word out there. So I just invite you to share with Cheryl how we can
Cheryl's
help
in
you.
charge of doing some of that promotion, Kim.
You're not on that board for nothing.
I'm sure Cheryl has a helper.
So it looks like I have more work to do.
Yeah.
I was kind of concerned at the beginning that we were going to be overwhelmed with people. So we did kind of slowly break out into the community. But this past month, we did have an article on the Splash that was pretty in depth I think,
Mhm.
about Memory Cafe. So hopefully that's helping. And now that I have the ability to post on Nextdoor, maybe that will help us as well.
That's a
And
great
please reach
idea.
out. I'm more than happy to help in any way.
Thanks, Kim.
You bet.
Well, thank you both again for taking time out of your day, Wayne and Judy, and all of our participants. We will be doing the edit for this. I'll be putting it everywhere I can. We'll send it out to our lists and post it on our social media so folks who see it can watch at their leisure.
Mhm.
And we just really appreciate you taking the time, because I think the message is so important, and would love people to know that while it may be a fearful first experience, that the benefits will just change things for them. It'll be a game changer.
Yeah, the availability of resources,
Yes,
the access to them is invaluable.
great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. And if you have other ideas in the future of topics, please keep them coming, because we will be doing these in the future, and Jennifer will be helping our new staff person. So thanks again for everyone coming, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Judy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bill.